Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to look at an advanced setup for the more experienced MTPredictor users on the NQ that unfolded yesterday during May the 14th. This is a 3-minute chart of the NQ, and you can see we have some automatic MTPredictor setups here. The STF is blue at this stage, therefore standard traders will want to be going for this long trade, and there would have been another trade a bit later in the day here. But I want to look at this TS1 cell. Now initially you can see that this TS1 cell is against a blue STF. So you may be asking, why would any MTPredictor users be considering a sell at this particular stage here? Whereas normally we look to take the trend off the larger degree charts. Now, so from that we then go to the 15-minute chart and have a look and see whether there's any resistance coming in earlier in the day, particularly at this high here. Normally we'll use DPs off the prior pivots. So if I right mouse click on this pivot, you can see here's our decision point resistance, and obviously we're well beyond that. So are there any other techniques that the more experienced MTPredictor users could actually look at as well? Well, let's have a look at the pattern of the market going up into here as the market's rallying. There seems to be a pretty important low here that's come off this consolidation here. So is there any Elliott wave pattern going up into this high? Well, here we can right mouse click, do Elliott wave intermediate, and yes, you can see we're actually in a wave 5. Now ideally you'd want to be at one of the wave 5 WPTs, and that's not quite the case in this particular example. So yes, this will be quite an aggressive trade for the experienced users among you, but it's something that you guys can actually grow into. So even without being at a WPT resistance, we know that we're actually in a wave 5 swing here on the 15-minute chart. And for the more experienced Elliott wavers among you, the question I'm going to ask next is, in this wave 5, this last swing going up here, how should this wave 5 subdivide on the shorter time frame? In other words, starting at this wave 4, going up into this wave 5 on a 15-minute chart, if we come down and then look back at our 3-minute chart, that's from this swing here going up into the high here. Now ideally we should have some kind of 5-wave sequence. So if I right mouse click on this pivot here, do Elliott wave intermediate, again you can see we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a bit choppy and horrible up at this stage. That's why I wouldn't even attempt to try and pick this wave 5 high, because picking wave 5s are always very, very problematic because you're standing in the end of a trend, particularly when it's as choppy and horrible as this. If we go back to the wave 3 high, place the decision point on, you can see that the NQ actually made 2 attempts at this wave 5 high. First one here, then made another attempt at this high here. So this was fairly choppy, fairly horrible, but what I'm trying to get you guys to see is that this does look like it's towards the end of a trend. In other words, this looks like a 5-wave sequence up here, bit choppy and horrible at the end, but it's also coming in for a wave 5 high at this point here in time as well. So many Elliott wave, traditional Elliott wave people get into trouble because they see this as the end of a wave 5 and they try to catch the end of the wave 5. In other words, try to take a trade off the top here, which of course, as I've already said, is very problematic. But the safest way to try and do this is to try and take what we call the first correction against a new trend. So what we're looking to do now is, if we suspect that a wave 5 has come in here and the trend is ending, we then look for the market to make an initial decline off what we believe to be a high. Then we wait to see whether we get an initial correction, which we did here, but the most important thing is we wait to see whether this initial correction unfolds an ABC. And this is a far, far, far safer way of trying to take a short trade, in this particular example, if you believe a wave 5 high is in. It's not trying to pick the actual wave 5 high, it's waiting to see whether we get an initial move, then an initial correction. Because if I zoom in here and look at this lot a bit closer, this initial correction, if I put the Elliott wave on here, would be what we call a wave 2 or B. Because we're anticipating this is an important high or wave 5 high, we'd say that this was more likely to be a wave 2 rather than a wave 2 or B. If I take the Elliott waves off there, Then I have a look at the minor pattern going up into here. If I do Elliott waves minor, you can see that this wave 2 here has subdivided into an ABC. Now in Elliott wave terms, a wave 2, which is what we're anticipating here, mostly, or the most common pattern in a wave 2 is an ABC. So can you see how suddenly this is all coming together in that we've got what appears to be a wave 5 high. Yes, I'll admit again this is quite choppy and quite horrible. It appears to be a wave 5 high on a 3 minute. It also appears to be the end of a wave 5 on a 15 minute as well. And therefore we look for the initial decline, the initial correction, and look to see where that correction unfolds as an ABC, which is what we've got here. If I now take the Elliott waves off there, we can see now we have a TS1 cell. Now yes, I've already said this is against a blue STF because we're anticipating that this is going to be now a decline here, and normally when you get the first correction in the first move of an important high, the STF will normally be lagging and will be behind that. That is why we use our Elliott wave analysis, which is leading. So let's have a look at the analysis on this particular trade setup. Remember, we use correct position sizing to keep our initial risk small under control. As the market declined down here, even if you'd said, well actually I want to try and take this long here, you'd have stopped and reversed it around this particular level and you'd still come out with plus 5R profit. So even though this TS4 would have probably resulted in a minus 1R loss, by taking the plus 5 profit on that initial decline would have made some good money overall. But that's not what I want to look at. The reason I want to look at this particular setup is because we know if we're assuming this is an important high up here, the market's made an initial decline down here, initial correction that's subdivided into an ABC. This is what I call our Holy Grail trade setup. And as I've hinted earlier in the video, this would be considered a wave 2. What normally unfolds on a wave 2? A wave 3. So therefore, rather than looking to go to our first target here, or even looking to come out of the trade at our potential buy here, the level we're looking to go to is our typical wave 3 WPT, which actually is placed on the chart here. And I also want to make this totally clear, and this was actually on the chart in advance, ready before you actually get there. So at the time of the setup, which is here, we placed the analysis on, and you actually know that in advance this is the level that you should be looking to go to. So there it is, literally even before you'd entered your trade. If I now turn training mode off, you can see that the market actually went down there and actually caught that low absolutely perfectly before the market then rallied into the close. In fact, actually, it wasn't quite the low of the day, was it? Because the low was back here. But the point being is that this swing here came down and reversed right at our WPT level for a wave 3 swing. You can see the position sizing here calculated what the risk would be, or the profit would be in terms of the initial risk, and this particular swing here would have produced an approximately 9 times initial risk, or a profit of 9 times the initial risk, or 9R. So a very, very good trade indeed. But the reason I wanted to go through this is because, yes, I'll admit again that this is a very aggressive trade for the more experienced MT predictors users among you, but for those of you who are experienced, can you see how, because we were coming into a wave 5 high on the 15-minute chart, and then also that last swing up into the high, the wave 5 itself, subdivided into a wave 5 swing as we've already seen back here. Even though this swing here was quite choppy, what we were doing was then looking for the initial decline, the initial correction to unfold as an ABC. So this was a good trade setup yesterday, but again I will say it's for the more experienced and more advanced MT predictors users among you. But this is what you can gain, or this is the kind of trade setups you can get with the software once you become more experienced and your knowledge of Elliott wave patterns and what we do in MT Predictor increases. And this is why we try to teach you these kind of trade setups, because there can be some fantastic trades available if you become more experienced and learn to know what to look for or what to anticipate in how the markets unfold.